The January 6th Commission, this is the Pelosi Commission, the stacked commission, is pushing out Liz Cheney as their frontman. It's sort of like, here's our token Republican, and she's going to tell you the truth about what really happened. And Liz Cheney, of course, released these texts from Hannity and Laura Ingraham and others to Trump, basically saying, hey, get those people out of the Capitol. And the strange thing is that Liz Cheney, in full pomposity, thought she's making a great point, namely that, look, all these people are warning Trump. But of course, it undercuts the left's narrative that the right was right behind the insurrection. The right was all in favor of taking over the Capitol. The right, the broad Republican Party, supports some kind of coup. It's all nonsense. And ironically, Liz Cheney is too dumb to see that her reading of these texts undercuts her own point. Now, Debbie and I have been talking about, the case of this guy, Peter Schwartz. This is a January 6th defendant who wrote a fairly detailed and impassioned letter about his circumstances. And, it kind of got to you.
It really did. Whatever he did, whatever he was charged with, I think it was pepper spraying the Capitol Police officers. We don't really know what happened with, in that circumstance. We don't know if they were being gassed, the crowd. We did see some footage, and it looks like the crowd was actually being sprayed or hit with something.
Yeah, so this guy's
for not doing anything.
Yeah,
so,
he's not the easiest case because he is accused of a violent offense. But what you're saying is we don't know the circumstances.
We don't know what he did, what he really did. But anyway, or the circumstances behind his reaction to what he did. But I will say this, and I told you this morning, I said, listen, I don't care if it's Antifa, I don't care if it's BLM, I don't care if it's a serial killer. They do not deserve to be put into a 8x10 cell with no due process. So this guy goes into detail about the conditions that he's having to endure.
First of all, even his arrest. I mean, they're dragging him up the stairs, and his wife, they handcuffed them both.
He was out taking a smoke, and all of a sudden, guns drawn. They shackle his ankles and his wife, and they drag him down the stairs or up the stairs or whatever. It was very descriptive, very horrifying, and really just outrageous.
I mean, they're wrecking the lives of people before they're even tried.
So, so when he was talking about the conditions in his confinement, in 8x10 cell, solitary confinement, he's been wearing the same contact lenses since January 7th, I think he said, wearing the same ones, bathing. I don't even think he's bathed. He is not allowed to even pray, go to a clergyman and ask, to have a Bible or whatever. He's not allowed to do that. He hasn't actually been allowed to see an attorney since, I think, the very beginning. No family visitations. Listen, I told you this morning, the Guantanamo Bay prisoners are not treated this way.
Yeah. I mean, this is first of all, this is a couple of things to say about it. One is, this is a violation of the UN Declaration of Human Rights, which I have in front of me. This was, by the way, proclaimed in 1948. It's a statement of universal rights, so it goes beyond the U.S. Constitution, and it's very clear. I mean, it lays out things that you can't do. Let me just read a few things. No one shall be subjected to torture or cruel, inhuman, or degrading treatment.
Right
there you go. All are equal before the law. Ha 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 ha.
Not so much.
And are entitled without any discrimination to equal protection of the law. Absurd. No. 3, no one shall be subjected to arbitrary arrest, detention, or exile. I mean, the right to a speedy trial. Where's a speedy trial? Everyone charged with a penal offense has the right to be presumed innocent until proven guilty according to law in a public trial in which he has all the guarantees necessary for his defense. I mean, they're withholding discovery.
Clear violation of human rights.
Clear violation. I mean, it's almost like we need to call upon, how embarrassing would this be? Call upon the UN to investigate the United States for systematic human rights abuses. Yep. And by the way, if this all seems rather abstract, here is a U.S. District Court judge. This is Royce Lamberth. Mm-hmm. He recently ordered Christopher Worrell, removed from the DC jail because he says the conditions are, quote, deplorable. I mean, he uses that word. They're deplorable and they're, quote, beyond belief. And he says his court has zero confidence that the DC jail will provide. This is, by the way, a guy who has cancer, who needs cancer treatment, who also needed surgery. And so the judge sent the marshals in, and the marshals found out that these people weren't getting proper food. They weren't even getting proper access to water.
Yep.
And we're talking now about the DC jail under Warden Wanda Patton and the director of the DC Department of Corrections, Quincy Booth. I think this should be part of the Republican platform to have these people indicted. They need to be indicted. They need to be charged. They need to be locked up. In fact, it would be really great to put them under the identical conditions. Give them a taste of their own medicine.
Well,
show them what it's like to be in their jail.
Yeah. Well, I don't know about that, but they do need to be
held accountable
for what they've done.
That's what I'm really saying.
You know, and I was also making the point that in Venezuela, 2013, all of these patriots went to the Capitol in Caracas, it's called the Presidential Palace, and they too were protesting what they believed to be an illegitimate election. So they went to the Capitol, and they were accosted by the Capitol Police, tear gassed, rubber bullets, you name it. And they also were arrested, and they also were thrown in jail with no due process. And I thought, oh my goodness, this is horrific. I was actually working with some Venezuelans to see if we could, get the UN's attention for this. And then here we are, the United States of America. I
remember you and I had meetings with Ted Cruz and Devin Nunes and others to see what the State Department and the U.S. government could do to address the conditions in Venezuela, and little did you know that they would be transplanted almost identically. And for the same exact reason. In fact, I saw a photo of a young man in Venezuela, and I think it was taken in 2013, and he had the Venezuelan flag draped on him, very much like Ashley Babbitt had the Trump flag draped on her. So these are patriots. These are not insurrectionists. These are not terrorists. These are people that believe in the Constitution, in their country's Constitution. And when they see something that is just not right, they have the right to protest. Exactly. And what's happening here, and the full truth about January 6th, I don't believe has come out yet. Julie Kelly and others are on this, but what they're trying to show, and it could very well be, not only FBI infiltration, not only provocation, but in a sense, an effort to lure the crowd into the Capitol, unobstructed in some cases, and then set upon them, beat them, attack them. And then when these guys try to fight back or block these blows that are being rained on them by the cops, accuse them of violence, accuse them of striking a police officer. Because in many cases, when you look at the details, you see things like, this guy raised his arm to block a police shield. Well, the shield was from the police. The police were obviously using the shield to strike out at people. So all of this needs to be documented and laid out. And this presumption that the government is right, I think we're learning from this case as so many others.
As you know, Democrats never let a crisis go to waste, and sometimes they create them.